Today on Collider Movie Talk. Can you see my face? I can't see my face. There we go. Today on Collider Movie Talk. That's right. Post-Thanksgiving, that's how it goes. Frozen 2 eats up all the Thanksgiving records at the box office. There's also some new Rise of the Skywalker TV spots we got to talk about. And Robert Pattinson. He thinks Batman is not a superhero. Say what? We're going to talk about all of that today on a live episode of Collider Movie Talk. That's why you go live. This is why you go live. This is the fun aspect of it all. Thank you all so much for joining us this lovely Monday morning. Hope you've recovered from your Thanksgiving weekend, hanging with the family, getting those presents, starting out, not presents, but getting the food, starting out shopping for presents already. Now sit back and relax, hang out with us for a little bit, and let's get this thing going. I'm sitting in for Perry Nemiroff, and I'm joined by two awesome people this morning. That is Silas Lesnick over there from Movie Pilot.
Yeah, Movie Bill.
I always get it so close. I'm always so close. There's so many of these sites jancing around. I get it in my head. At least I didn't say Movie Talk, because I know that's what we're on. And over there, Vinnie Mancuso, back from Jersey.
Yes.
How are you? How was Jersey?
It was a lot colder than here. I got in like 6 hours ago.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm a little tired.
Was there snow?
There was snow.
Wow.
When I left, my flight was 3 hours delayed because of snow. That's why I got in about 6 hours ago. But hey, here I am. I'm moving talk.
Good. This is why I only go home once a year to Virginia, because that stuff always happens. You sat around watching movies all weekend.
Yeah, it was
recovering.
great.
What did you enjoy the most from all the screeners you got to watch?
So there was a ton of things. I mean, Irishman was
okay,
amazing. But
you could have watched that on Netflix.
Yeah,
okay.
we could watch it.
Okay.
One of the ones that really surprised me was Dora the Explorer.
What?
I really liked.
It looked nice.
Okay.
It looked pleasant. It looked like a good time.
Give it a shot. Doors. Well, I mean, that's a kid's movie. Certainly from, getting that audience, and certainly Frozen 2 did that as well. But of course, adults and other people went to see this thing. It was pretty incredible. Let me pull up my stats here. It earned $85.2 million over the 3-day weekend and $123.7 million over the 5-day holiday weekend, which is the highest Thanksgiving weekend total of all time. It dethroned The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. The film averaged about $20,803 per theater across 4,000 locations. And right now, currently, domestic total of $288 million. It dipped 35%, just 35% from the previous weekend. Now, total, because worldwide, it also made $163.8 million. Total right now, it's sitting at $739 million worldwide. That's insane. We're going to talk about this first, and then we're going to jump into some of the other surprises. But let's talk about this. Vinny, let's go to you first. Were you surprised at the level that this thing has been holding on?
That's a lot of money. A lot of money. No, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised because we were talking about this a little bit before. Frozen kind of came out of nowhere. It was just like, oh, this looks fun, and then
the original,
and then became this phenomenon. And this one almost flew under the radar. Not flew under the radar, obviously, because it's a Disney movie. But until it came out, it wasn't that hype. So I was surprised in the sense that people weren't really talking about it. But that's kind of how I felt about the first one. I don't think Frozen was like this highly anticipated movie and then just blew up. I think Frozen is the Frozen and the sequel, the type of movies where it's like, oh, of course I'm going to go see that. Like it's not something that really needs a long lead up. It's just like, yes, I have 2 kids. I'm going to see Frozen. So to me, it's like people are home for Thanksgiving, want to get out of the house. They're not going to take your kid to go see Knives Out, so we're going to see Frozen. It was a perfect storm, and I'm not surprised, but I am. I feel like that movie has already been out for like a month.
Yeah, it's weird how these films come out and they make so much money and they consume our social media zeitgeist and the pop culture mainstream conversation that it feels like these films have been out for quite some time, even though they've been out for 2 weeks. It's only been out for 2 weeks, and it seems to be the talk of the town.
And I still don't even know if people like Frozen 2. Like, what is the general critical consensus on Frozen 2? I don't know, but everyone wanted to go see it, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you were talking about that off camera, Silas. What has been the criticism of it, or the critical review of it, or response?
It's a little hard for me to say because I have a sister who loved the first Frozen, and a lot of my perception of Frozen 2 was based on like, oh, is she going to like it? What is she going to think? I'm not around a ton of people with kids. The people that I have talked to were kind of surprised at how dark it was.
Yeah.
And they were sort of saying, well, I wanted to go see a movie with my kids, and this is too scary for them. And the contrast of that is, well, the people that had the kids that were old enough to really appreciate the first movie, they're now teenagers and they don't really care as much.
Right. And I wonder if that's, I mean, from the opening first trailer that they sent us, it had that aspect of darkness to it. So for people to be surprised, I guess they figured this was kind of a more mature approach, but they were assuming they wouldn't go full dark. But certainly it sounds like you're not the only one that said that, or your sister's not the only one that said that. I've heard that from a number of people, that it's a little darker than people anticipate. And the songs are a bit kind of off kilter from what's happening on the screen, but overall, I mean, you can't deny people are going in droves to see this thing.
The
over and
movie
over
I
again.
keep seeing it compared to is Annihilation.
Oh, what?
Which is the people, like, I remember after the first screen, people were like, "Oh, Disney does Annihilation," and I was like, "Well, that sold me more than anything else." And it's like. I get what they're saying. I don't think it's not a exact match, obviously,
Right.
obviously, but it is definitely got that touch of the old Disney darkness to it.
So it's got that. Boom. Is there a sound? Is there a sound in the?
Is that what the old Disney? That's what that means to you? The Inception bomb?
Annihilation's got that. Boom, that
does,
whatever
it
it is,
does.
that thing through the shimmer or whatever it's called. I wonder if they've got that in there. Have you seen it yet? Have either of you seen it? Yeah. Okay.
One of the weirdest things about it is the plot is sort of like, well, these like elemental beings are threatening to destroy the kingdom, and
Right.
they have to figure out what's going on. It's like, it's weird that the real plot of Frozen 2 is the fake plot of Spider-Man Far From Home.
Oh, with the
elementals
Mysterio
threatening
and
to
elementals.
destroy
Oh,
the-
right.
okay.
Interesting. All right, something to explore. Certainly.
I will say the way the music in this movie is I don't know how they do it, but it's just so. I remember when we were at D23, Frozen was the last thing of the day. We were just like, oh, who cares about Frozen 2? The first movie, it's whatever. And they showed a couple songs, and we were like, I'm so mad about how good that music was, because I couldn't care. I honestly, going into D23. I couldn't care less about Frozen 2, and they played a snippet of the big song that I don't even remember what it was called.
Right.
I think Panic at the Disco covered it. Whatever that song is.
Yeah.
And we walked out of that room, and I was just like, it's in my brain now. And it's just like they have this way of just much like Annihilation, infecting your brain. And you leave the room with Frozen 2 just like in your brain. And they did it with Let It Go, and they did it with these songs. And it's the songwriting talent in these movies is, to me, and the performers themselves, is the real gem of these movies.
Yeah, and something really interesting when you see how many of these sequels that have come out after films were like successful. Because remember, Frozen, when it first came out, it didn't blow the doors off the box office. It certainly did well. I think it was 110 million worldwide, but it grew. The legs were very long for this thing, and it made a lot of money. Certainly appealed to a lot of young girls out there, young kids out there, really enjoyed it. And of course, really powerful message about standing on your own, the power of family, that kind of thing. All of it, plus that incredible song from Idina Menzel, all helped it overall to get into the public consciousness. But look, we've seen with so many movies this year that came along, and then like these sequels came out that were this year, and they didn't do so well. Like Secret Life of Pets 2 didn't do so well, but Frozen 2 comes out and is killing it right from the beginning, regardless of what the overall reviews are or critical responses to it is. It seems to be touching some button all over again. People want to go back and back all over again.
I think part of that is just Disney as a brand.
Yeah.
I think Disney Plus has only solidified that,
Right.
of the idea that if you want a film to go see with the family, that even if it's not the greatest film in the world, you will enjoy to some degree. Here's this, and it's coming out right at the holiday season, and people have time to go see it, and they can see it with their family.
Yeah, I think at this point that's just how movies work. Like if people are going to the theater, they need something recognizable, and so they're like, oh, a Disney movie. I'll go spend $14 on a Disney movie. Where if it's just an animated film they don't know about, because there's so many. I think people think animated film equals Disney, but it's just that Disney is the one that people take their families to go see,
Right.
and that's just how it works now. And as you can see, second weekend, $123 million.
It's like you say, I want a soda. Some people say in the South, they go, I want a Coke.
Yeah.
But they don't mean a Coke. They mean whatever you've got soda-wise. That's kind of how it is, or a Kleenex, that kind of thing. Okay, let's move on. Just before you guys get too insane that Disney is consuming everything, this weekend was also, the box office was also very positive for films that weren't Disney-related necessarily, more mature fare, and that's Rian Johnson's Knives Out. It earned $27 million domestically this weekend, and it brings its domestic total up to $41.7 million from 3,461 locations. That is double what it was projected to make, right? Very similar to Ford versus Ferrari. And then not to be outdone, you got to give some love to Queen of Slim here. That reeled in $11.7 million domestically, bring its total up to $15.8 million. And that's the film with Jodie Turner-Smith and Daniel Kaluuya that's directed by Melina Matsoukas from Insecure. Both of these, Ford versus Ferrari only dipped 16% itself, and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood only dipped 11%. It got 11.8 million. Ford versus Ferrari overall total right now sitting at 81 million domestically. This speaks to something, and I want to hear what you two think about this, because we've seen these complaints, like recently with Charlie's Angels. People don't have an interest in things that are not. But these are films that kind of buck the trend of this massive conglomerate of Disney, and they're doing well at the box office.
Yes, although I do think, the one, and I haven't seen it yet, I really want to see Queen and Slim.
Yeah.
That one, it's awesome that it's making so much money. Because I think something like Ford versus Ferrari is leaning on these A-list talent. And it's
Bale and Damon.
Yeah, it's like, these are like classic movie star roles. Maybe that's all.
No, I totally agree. I to sort of piggyback off of what I said about needing to see something recognizable. I wonder, like, if another filmmaker had just released a whodunit on Thanksgiving weekend, would anyone be interested? It has a name on it. It kind of reminds me of Us with Jordan Peele's Us. It's like if somebody that didn't do Get Out just released a doppelganger horror movie, would it have broke the records it did? I think people always need something to latch onto to get them out of the house and into the movie theater, which I completely understand, because not only is there so much content at home, especially with Disney Plus and all that, it's getting more and more expensive to go to the movie theater. So people want that guarantee that they're going to see something that it's worth leaving the house for. So I think having Rian Johnson's name, which has been pretty prominent since The Last Jedi came out, for good or bad, people know that, and they're like, I would go see a Rian Johnson movie, no matter who it is. And because he is who he is, he assembled this very recognizable cast. There's not a person in that movie that they don't come on screen and you're like, oh, nice, they're in this movie.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good point. You bring up both points here. This idea of needing something to latch onto, right? With Rian Johnson, that star-studded cast is fantastic. But also, great point, Vinny. Like, if Last Jedi doesn't come out and create all this fervor, do people have this interest? Because there are just as many people who were detracting Last Jedi were promoting it, supporting it, and people coming out saying how much they love Rian Johnson's stuff. So you get those people coming in the theater now even more so to patronize it, and it's getting fantastic reviews. Both of them have an A- cinema score. I think both one at that and Queen and Slim have an A- cinema score. But with Queen and Slim, to me, I can liken it almost to like Harriet. People came in, it's like there's not a lot of fanfare for it, and then it comes in and really surprises people with its box office. I think it's positive. This is something I wish I had more time to explore and really analyze this idea of how and I want to say this correctly, how black film goers, how that community is responding to certain type of films that come out, how the white community is responding, how other sections of the movie going public are responding to these films. Because this is a film that essentially is a Bonnie and Clyde film that responds to a police shooting. So he's like, okay, we're tackling this really tough topic, but look at it isn't getting drowned out or buried. People are actually going to see this. So I find this fascinating.
I do too, because I find it fascinating that like Hollywood has every time a movie that's not just like, top line by Chris Evans, it comes out, people are like, well, how's it going to do? And then it does well. It does surprisingly well. But when they keep doing well, it's like, well, maybe these audiences want to go to the movies and see these movies.
That's my point, Vinny. Is there an audience here that's being underserved and wants to be served more?
So Queen and Slim, I think, is the most interesting case here, because it really, besides Daniel Kaluuya, it doesn't really have any big name recognizable talent attached to it. So the fact that people are coming out for it, I mean, there's something there, which we all know what it is drawing people to the theater. And I feel like that underserved audience, I want to say, can only remain underserved for so long, but it has been so long. And it's almost like people are like, how is this movie doing so well? And it's like, it's doing as well as all the other movies that came before it.
Right. And I've wondered, because something like Black and Blue, which I thought was a fantastic film, I was really surprised how good that film was. It comes out and doesn't quite do as well, but it got decent reviews from the critics, but overall it doesn't do as well as something like Queen and Slim. I think Kaluuya, once again, you have a name, people go, okay, if Kaluuya is involved in this because of Get Out and Black Panther and other projects he's been in.
I mean, he's great.
Give it a point. Yeah, we'll give it a little thing and see what's here. And that's great. But also Ford versus Ferrari and Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Once again, what your point here, Silas, the idea of having a name like Tom Hanks attached to it, people wanting to go see this on a Thanksgiving Day weekend. So that's positive overall.
That's kind of a fascinating one. I myself haven't seen that one either yet, but it's kind of a recognizable property in Mr. Rogers and an A-list actor playing the role.
Yeah.
All the dads went and saw all the Thanksgiving dads saw Ford vs Ferrari and Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. They dropped their kids off at Frozen 2 and they're like, I'm gonna go see the racing movie.
That's a good movie. I like Ford versus Ferrari.
It's an extremely dad movie.
It is. I hate to break it.
It's an extremely dad film.
I'll accept it. Just not to be outdone, Joker was at number 9 here with $2 million over the weekend. It is now $330.6 million domestically and $1.048 billion worldwide so far. So incredible.
You think we're getting a Joker sequel?
We've talked about it on here. And of course, there were rumors about it happening, not happening. Those conflicting reports from Deadline, and I think Hollywood Reporter, about whether it was going to happen or not. And people coming out. I think it's going to happen. I just wonder if that's going to ruin Joker overall if a sequel comes out and isn't as good. Like The Matrix, right? I love The Matrix to pieces. I bought it again over the weekend, the new UHD for whatever version they have. But it's always soured by the fact that the two and three come right afterwards are nowhere near as good as that first one. And that's what I worry about with something like Joker. It was so original in its approach. Yes, I know it has influences, but it was original in its approach to a superhero type situation. So I don't know. Overall, ticket sales dropped 16% from last year's record setting $315 million. But that is not necessarily bad because last year there was Ralph Breaks the Internet, Creed 2, and Fantastic Beasts and The Grinch. So that's a lot to overcome. But the success of this weekend helped narrow the year-to-date deficit from 7%, which we talked about last Monday, to 5.6% now in terms of the total ticket sales from last year and ticket sales this year. So that's a positive overall. And one last thing from Jim Orr, Universal's president of domestic distribution. He said, everyone talks about how hard it is to make original movies, but you look at the top of the box office this weekend, and it's encouraging. And I agree. I think it is encouraging. So we'll see going forward what happens with that.
Mid-budget R-rated movie. Like those are the movies I just want to do so well. I love a good original like not huge, not tiny, no budget movie. Those Knives Out sized movies are like the sweet spot that I think everyone should go support.
Right. But are we really losing those? I guess I know we need to move on to the next topic, but is it overblown that those movies are not being consumed by the public at the rate that they need to be? Or is it just like these were really good movies and people came to see them?
I think it's that they're not going to be able to be made by an up-and-coming filmmaker. I think they will absolutely need to have someone attached to them to get made at all.
It's ironic considering how that's where Rian Johnson made his bones, right?
Exactly, yeah.
It's ironic in that way. All right, well, let's move on to something that is making a lot of money. Speaking of Rian Johnson, although he's isn't directing this one, that's Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. Some new TV spots dropped over the weekend. One called Celebrate, the other one called Hold On, and then there was one that was released international, overseas. So much going on in this. We get Kylo Ren walking with his Knights of Ren on what we assume is the Destroyer. We get a Jedi mind trick moment. We get Leia holding Luke's lightsaber. We also get a space monster with the Millennium Falcon, an escape that feels just like the Space Slug moment from the original trilogy. So I'll go to you on this one, Silas, first. Which one of these spots stood out for you? Which one of these moments? Like, what stood out for you from all these spots?
Actually, the spots I have really loved are the featurettes.
Okay.
I think that there have been two released that sort of tie into the Star Wars legacy.
Right.
And there was one, I think it was on Thanksgiving Day that came out that just has footage from the set of A New Hope, and it sort of moves through very quickly into Rise of Skywalker, and that's what's working for me as a fan, to just be reminded that it's part of this bigger saga. The one thing that I found sort of like weird when I look at Rise of the Skywalker in and of itself is I love Star Wars. I'm not as invested in this newer trilogy, and when I look at just the newer trilogy, it's weird how short a period of time it is. It's like this.
Oh
all
yeah,
fits.
right.
There was a longer distance between Maleficent and Maleficent 2 than this entire 3-film cycle.
Yeah.
And it's weird even in the narrative that it sort of adds that, because Last Jedi takes place immediately after Force Awakens, and there hasn't been as much room to breathe as I would have liked for the franchise. But when they tie it back to that bigger, like, no, it's been a 40-year journey, that's working for me.
Yeah. What about you, Vinnie?
What I find interesting about all of these spots is that at first I was like, wow, they're showing us a lot of this movie, but I almost get the sense that we're seeing like the same 2 or 3 scenes in every. I feel like this is gonna be one of those movies that surprises you, that all the trailers and spots were from like the first hour of the movie, and then there's something completely different at the end. When you sent me 3, I was like, wow, they are showing so much of this movie, but I really do think it's all from the same scenes, and they're just slicing and dicing it. And I like what I see. I don't know. I am invested in this new trilogy. Something hit me the right way about the first 2 movies. And I know they're like completely different films, and there's a lot of criticism that Force Awakens is just a remake of A New Hope, which it is. But it's something about these movies just really hit me the right way, and I'm very excited for it. And the thing that I love about these spots is just getting to hear, and I always butcher his last name, Ian McDermott. Yeah, McDiarmid. I would say it. There's so many letters in it. I just getting to hear him do his Palpatine. He just like takes a. I think the line was like, "Let the final battle begin."
Yeah,
but there was like 18 syllables that were not usually in those words. The way to hear him deliver lines as Palpatine again is just like that hits me right in like a nostalgia spot. That is. And I don't like when movies, rely on nostalgia, but there's just something about the way hearing that man talk. It's like, wow, he was like a really good part of the prequels, and he's in my favorite Star Wars movie ever, which is Return of the Jedi, and here he is talking the same. It's to me that got me more hyped than anything.
Yeah, we should start a new show called Collider Debate Show. And then Vinny and I can battle all the time. Return of the Jedi versus Empire Strikes Back.
I'm pretty sure it would just be us every single week.
No, but I love.
We have differing opinions.
No, we do, and I enjoy that. What I liked, what I found interesting about this, and you speak about nostalgia. There is nostalgia all over these spots, and not just the featurettes, which you mentioned too, Silas, but nostalgia. I mean, this idea of like, it's okay that we're here. Oh, it's okay that you're here. Like, it's very much, these are not the droids you're looking for. So I find that to be dangerous, to be walking closer to the nostalgia when you've gotten so much crap for feeling like people are saying that Force Awakens traced A New Hope. You'd want to walk away from that, but I think they understand their bread and butter is the nostalgia of the original trilogy, and people were kind of fractured after Last Jedi, even though, I know you like Last Jedi, some people didn't, so maybe they want to use the same formula as they did with Force Awakens, which is, we're going to bring you back to what you remember, what you like the most, and we get that. We get the Emperor coming back, like you said. I think he's just sitting in a booth recording all these lines. Maybe he never shows up at all. I don't think
any of these lines are in this movie. But I do think you're right, and I totally understand it, because like I do like Last Jedi, but I know it was very divisive. I think even though Disney would never admit it, they are trying to bring back all the people. There's a very subtle undertone to all these that are like, don't worry, it's still Star Wars.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like there was the one spot on Thanksgiving where they used Duel of the Fates.
Yes.
Where I was like, ooh, they're like, please come. It's not, like, we're sorry. They would never say it. But
they're saying it without saying.
They're saying it without saying. They're like, we're sorry for The Last Jedi. But I that one got me too. Duel of the Fates it's one of the best parts of the prequels.
Agreed.
And it's under one of if not the best lightsaber fights in the entire franchise. And you hear that and you're just like, yes. You don't really care what's going on, because you hear that and you're immediately transported back to when you were in the theater, still excited for Phantom Menace. It's just like they are trafficking pretty heavily in nostalgia, and I'm very interested to see how that translates to the entire film.
I could very much see that being part of the narrative at the same time. I mean, Star Wars, it's the Joseph Campbell hero's journey. And to understand that when you watch Star Wars, you as the audience, you are Luke Skywalker. You're following his journey, so you are him. And Rey is him. And I think Into the Spider-Verse did it really well with the sort of anyone can wear the mask. The story repeats. Like, that just is the way stories work.
Yeah.
And there's something cool, like you were saying about bringing the Emperor back. I've seen people complain. They're like, oh, well, he was a villain they got rid of. They don't need to bring him back. And at the same time, he's a guy that has been like throughout all 9 movies.
Yeah.
I think it fits perfectly.
Yeah, I always thought that this new trilogy was kind of about how like the sins of what happened in the past affect a new generation. So now you have this young crew being like, it's like the okay boomer of Star Wars. They're like, this guy's back. We got to deal. It's kind of like that's the theme, and bringing him back is like the ultimate example of the sins of the past. And they're like, we got to clean up this mess that another generation made.
Which is essentially what Yoda was trying to tell him.
Yeah.
Right after the trees burnt down and everything like that, he's like trying to tell him this is the situation, because we're discovering now, even through the Mandalorian, like in that last previous episode, we got a little more backstory about what happened after Return of the Jedi and what happened with like all these people who were part of the rebellion. Like, well, where do we go now? Like, it's so interesting how Disney is walking into this idea of there's more that happened after Return of the Jedi. It wasn't just happily ever after. There's real life that enters into something like this and goes, what would you do once, which is through history, once a rebellion works?
Yeah.
Most of the times they're not prepared to rule afterwards without having more of an iron fist.
That's my favorite part about The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Is that it's showing what, like, we're all like, they blew up the Death Star, that's awesome, but like, what would happen after the Galactic Empire, the thing that controls the entire galaxy, fell? It's just a time of lawlessness, and I feel like that bleeds really nicely into The Last Jedi. I've always been very aware that one episode of The Mandalorian premieres on a Wednesday before The Last Jedi, and I'm like, is this show going to tie in? Like, to me, I've always been thinking about what they said about the Disney movies, about the Marvel movies, about how you need Disney Plus to watch. And I'm like, are they going to tie in this show? To me, that is the future of the Disney Plus platform. So I'm wondering how much The Mandalorian will affect.
I mean, I could easily imagine it turning out that Baby Yoda's a clone.
Yeah.
That the Emperor was trying to clone Jedi, and if he's successful, it means we might. I mean, we've seen the Dark Rey in the trailer. What if that's an evil clone of Rey? What if we get an evil Dark Luke and an evil Dark Qui-Gon and Mace Windu?
As soon as I saw that release schedule, it was like Friday, Wednesday before Last Jedi. I was like, Disney. We'll see. I mean, obviously they don't want to release a show on the same day. It's
possible that it's like, oh well, it's Christmas. Let's get it out
I get why on a technical term, but at Disney they like tying things together.
It's not an off-base speculation for sure.
Yeah.
That doesn't have any
pure speculation,
right? But it's not like it doesn't have any basis. You know, they've done stuff
There's
like
no
this.
Facts, but like I look at the release schedule. It's interesting. It's interesting.
It feels that way. That's for sure. There's a lot of great stuff here. Obviously, Rey and Kylo going at it with the lightsaber, the water and the sea. Such a great cinematic shot. Duel of the Fates, as you mentioned, Vinny. So cool. I like Leia holding the lightsaber, especially because we saw it getting shattered before. Now it's back together. But this is supposedly, the rumor was that we were going to get a flashback of Luke and Leia training as Jedis on Endor. And then she goes off to have Ben Solo, and that's what stops her training. So we see her kind of learning the Force, but maybe they didn't have time to shoot those shots and digitally de-age. But we do see her holding a lightsaber, which looks like Endor. So they may be using part of that stuff to factor into this movie.
I think it was Carrie Fisher's brother, who I guess owns the estate now. He said that she was supposed to be the big payoff. Leia, she was going to ride in triumphantly. And I mean, I'm very skeptical about what that means. You know, it's her brother, and it would be very strange to have Leia be like the big payoff of this movie about this young generation. But I do think that the plan was to have Leia be a big part of it, and I think they're using a lot of and I think that might be why Colin Trevorrow has a story by credit, because I do think a lot of what they were having planned for Leia is going to bleed. Not, we're obviously not going to see it, but the idea behind it is gonna inform the Rise of Skywalker. So I wouldn't be surprised to get a little bit of a Leia lightsaber moment, because I think a bigger one was planned and they want to do justice to that.
I think they're leaning into the Marvel humor. I think everyone has to accept that. There's some moments here that feel that way, and it works for them. So on the Marvel side, maybe it'll work on the Star Wars side. We'll see overall. But the spots, they excite me. Little concerned about the nostalgia aspect, but not so much that it doesn't make me excited to see what they do with it. And I think you might be right, Vinny. These are just clips from like the first hour of the movie, and the rest of the movie is like insane. So it'll be fun to see what they end up with at the end of the day. All right, let's move on real quick. We got some promos today. Let's see. I think we got a rule of two thing. Are we playing it? Let's do it.
Hey guys, Riley here, and let me tell you about Rule of Two. You looking for a Star Wars fix? Well, Rule of Two is that show. It drops on Collider Video's main YouTube channel, as well as on Podcast One's Jedi Council feed. So go over there, subscribe, share it with your friends. It's hosted by myself and Mark Fernandez. We talk everything in in the Star Wars universe with a lot of deep dives and a lot of conversations that go all in. You know what to do. Subscribe, join us there, and rise.
Rise. That's always a fun thing, Rule of Two. I've been on once. It was always a blast to be on that show and always to listen to that show. There's so much Star Wars knowledge dripping out of Riley and Fernandez's mouth about this stuff. A little bit of biased knowledge as well, but it's still fun to listen to. That's why you listen to things like this. And don't forget about Sports Time coming on at 1 p.m. Pacific Time today live. Josh McCouga is back joining me, and Taylor Bashotti is back from the NFL Network. She's going to join us, so we're going to have a lot of fun breaking down all the weekend's actions from the NFL and college football, maybe a little NBA as well. You never know. We'll toss into that. So let's move on to our last story. That's Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson of Twilight fame and other fame as well. He is going to be playing Bruce Wayne in Matt Reeves' The Batman. He was being interviewed on the Today Show about this whole project, and something stood out for me that when he spoke to Willie Geist, who was interviewing him, and they were talking about the word superhero. And Guy said, did that came to you and you thought what? You wanted to be a superhero, referencing Batman? And Pattinson laughed and said, Batman's not a superhero. It doesn't count. You need to have like magical powers to be a superhero. So this is fascinating, I thought. I know it's just a quote. Maybe it's a toss-away quote. And guys came back at him and said, well, you wear a cape. And Pattinson was like, oh, I'll give you that one. But this idea is interesting because I think now we're in this full media blitz for the Batman. And that is, this is not what's gone before. This is a more, how can I say this? A more grounded, street-based Batman that is Gotham-based, that isn't a superhero necessarily. He could be a hero, but not a superhero. So it doesn't necessarily have to tie into the overall DCU. Do you think this is purposeful by Pattinson?
I think it's important to first note that Robert Pattinson is like a noted troll. Like like a month ago, he said he was going to do a pirate voice for Batman. One of my favorite Robert Pattinson things ever is when the time he was on the Today Show and he just made up a story about seeing a dead clown, and it was like very obviously, verifiably a lie, and he just kept going with it. He's a weird guy. He left Twilight and went on to do the weirdest stuff. He's had a masturbation scene in like the last 5 movies.
Oh, wow.
He's just like, that's what I want to do. He's a really weird guy. But I think underneath his weirdness, what's being sold about the Batman is the fact that it is a detective story, which I think the fact that the Riddler is the main villain, the fact that I think Matt Reeves has even said it's like a detective noir. I think they're really trying to highlight the fact that this isn't going to be a big battle movie. It's going to be, there's going to be a lot of Bruce Wayne. There's going to be a lot of schmoozing as Bruce Wayne. There's going to be a lot of social stuff. And there's also going to be a lot of, because coming up, Batman was, he's the world's greatest detective. That was a big part of his character. And I think the movie is, for good reason, it's not very cinematic to have a guy like dusting for fingerprints, but it's like, I think they did away with that. I think this movie is going to bring back the fact that Batman is a detective and he's going to try and solve a case. It's not going to be so much of a Batman versus Superman situation where it's just this showdown. It's going to be, I need to solve this puzzle.
Do you like that he's approaching it this way, saying it's not a superhero, or do you think he's trolling?
Well, so I'll go back, and this was always my argument as a kid with friends, was like, well, a superhero has superpowers. So Batman's a hero, but he's not a superhero because he doesn't have superpowers. It's weird when you get down to it because like superhero is owned by DC and Marvel, each own a variant of like Super Space Hero is one of them, and Super Dash Hero is another one.
Oh, wow, really?
And it all goes back to like toy merchandising from the 80s. Course. But I can see how playing a role, you can't think of it as a superhero. I think even playing Superman, who is unquestionably a superhero, if you were going to play the part, you need to see him as not literally a human being, but a human being.
Yeah.
You need to understand who he is outside of that. So that may be part of his process, but I love what you say about detective, because we have had so many Batman movies, and he's not really a detective in any of them.
Yeah.
And I think Batman v Superman was one of the worst, where it's like, you couldn't find out that it was the name of a boat. You couldn't just type it into Google and it would say, oh yeah, it's currently docked at Gotham Harbor.
And Affleck was a good Batman, but he was not a detective. He was not the smartest of Batman. He made a spear out of kryptonite. Of all the weapons. We're not here to talk about Batman v Superman, but
don't tell Riley he's going to come storming in here.
The door's going to open. But yeah, no, I think I really do think that, and again, a lot of it is Robert Pattinson being a weirdo, but the way that they've been talking about this movie, they've really been trying to sell the fact that it's like, this is not the Batman that is going to be, gliding through Gotham. He's not going to have an airplane. It's not going to be all about how many fun gadgets he has. It's going to be about like this problem Batman has to solve with his brain. He's going to be a more cerebral Batman, basically. And I think that is interesting because that's something we haven't seen on screen in a very long time, if maybe not really ever. We've never really gotten a detective story with Batman. Something like the animated movies. They've dived into it there, but live action Batman, it's not really something we've ever gotten.
Well, I think that's what people are clamoring for. We're going to do it differently. You got to have something to hook people, right? Pattinson is the hook, obviously, but then you have to have a new approach to it. Matt Reeves is another hook. What's the approach? The detective angle. Great. Let's go with that. See what we can do with it. I think he's doing this on purpose. I think he's trying to separate this idea of Batman being part of this, the Justice League or this part of the super, it's more of a grounded thing. And I appreciate that. I love a street level Batman. That's what we want because we're getting what do you get? You got Superman, you got Wonder Woman, you've got Aquaman, you've got Flash. You got all these people that have these extreme powers. He's just a rich dude with a lot of gadgets who knows how to fight, And if you go that route, then Iron Man. How's Iron Man a hero? Because he's just a guy in a mechanized suit. Hawkeye's just a really good guy with arrows. Black Widow's is a really good fight. So you start to reduce these things if you start to say that. So I've always bristled at the term superhero, I guess, inside as I think about it. I've always bristled at the term. Heroes is what it is, and super or not is a subjective term. But hero, I think, is it can be a little more of an objective term when it comes to this kind of situation. So this excites me overall. I like this approach. And even if he's trolling, I like it too because he's masterfully trolling to get us to even be talking about it. So
I like this approach to the DC universe overall because they were trying to figure out what the heck it was. But I really like the idea of each hero having a movie tailored to them instead of trying to fit it into this larger thing. Like when you see that Aquaman movie it's an Aquaman movie. It's absurd. But when you see a Batman movie, you don't want to see the kind of stuff you've seen in an Aquaman movie. Right. It should be, a little quieter, a little more street level. Like you said, when you see a Superman movie, you want this uplifting, big budget Superman movie. When you see a Wonder Woman movie, you get pretty much what we got in Wonder Woman. Yeah. I like the idea that it's very comic booky to have them go off in their own colorful, very tailored to them direction. And then if in the future, if they want to do another Justice League, you bring all those colors together. And that's not exactly even the approach that Marvel did. That would be a very DC thing to do, to really tailor their individual movies to the hero instead of taking that hero and shoving them into this larger thing. Yeah,
y'all might be crazy at me for this comment, but it's like Ocean's 11, Ocean's 13. Whenever they bring them, whenever they're their own element, they have different aspects of whatever's going on in their worlds. But once they all come together, there's an overall unifying thing that still has elements of their distinct worlds factored into the overall story, right?
That's why Suicide Squad didn't work as a movie, because when they came together, no one used their... I am so hung up on the fact that Captain Boomerang did not throw the bomb. Yeah. His only power is throwing stuff. And he just stood there, throw the bomb. Yeah. Why would you have Killer Croc throw the bomb? Because they didn't bring the different elements together in a cohesive way. Yeah. I think on a larger scale, that could be DC's new way forward. Yeah. You have these very, very distinctive heroes, and they all have their own things that people want to see, and you bring those together, it's a beautiful thing. I agree. Well, speaking of the people, let's get into some chat questions here as we wrap up, because we'll see what happens with Robert Pattinson and the Batman down the road. We got a long way to go for that one. So, let's focus on what we got in front of us. Let's do some live chat questions. All right, Quizinton Watts, Rocha, where do you buy your jackets? Oh, Jesus Christ. Wilson's Leather Outlet. How about that? They go there. They're great jackets. They're Obviously, real cheap. It's Wilson's Leather Outlet.
I mean, for God's sake, can't you tell? Steve Calderon, what did you think of the ET short for Xfinity? Do you want a full-length sequel to the original after watching this commercial? That's a great reaction. Yeah.
So ET was the first VHS before I even knew what VHS was. My parents were like, I had a toy ET before I ever saw the movie. It was just something I loved. And I remember at a very young age, seeing the movie and loving it and asking why there wasn't a sequel. And it just boggled my mind as a kid of well, this is a movie everybody loves a character everybody loves. Why wouldn't you make another one? And now I'm at a point where it was weird logging on and seeing all of this enthusiastic, oh, I can't believe how great this is. And I thought it was one of the most crass, unpleasant things I had ever seen. Like, it was just like,
Get him. Get AT.
well, why we get a 3-minute sequel to ET that's a commercial for like
Xfinity,
this is
yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, I got suckered in by. I'm such a sucker for scores. Like I was when they played John Williams' song, I will admit I was completely suckered in. But like given the benefit of like 2 seconds, I was like, oh, that is gross that they did that. And it's just like I think like even Henry Thomas, he gave some quote to someone. He was like, we gave them all the nice stuff that people would want from a sequel, and it's just like. I don't think this is what people like. You left out the part where the government like breaks in his door on Christmas and like arrests his children. Like there's a lot of stuff going on there that wouldn't. It was just ET being like hello and then leaving. Right. That's not. It's even weird to call it a sequel because it's sort of like a deleted scene from the first movie. It's a very weird thing. And again, when I first watched it, I was just like, this is so nice. Look at ET sledding. It's adorable.
Right.
But given the benefit of like 10 minutes, I was just like, ooh, I don't think I like that. John Williams got me there. That score. When they fly across the moon, I was just like, this is worth it. I'll buy all the Xfinity products. But it's just like, afterwards, I was just like, yeah, that was kind of gross. And it's very weird that he did it. It's weird that Steven Spielberg was like, yeah, I'm fine with this.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I think as people get older, artists get older, they care less and less about that kind of stuff. Yeah. And they're like, well, sure, if you can make some money off it,
he's remodeling his kitchen or something.
Yeah, right. It's 30 years away. But I haven't been always the biggest ET fan, but I kind of liked this. I thought this was really sweet. But I get both your points. It's very much in the commercial marketing aspect of it all to sell Xfinity to people. But it was nice to see Henry Thomas be a part of this. I half expected Drew to show up at some point, a piece of me. Or I don't know if is D. Wallace still around with us? I wonder if D. Wallace or even Peter Coyote as Keys, having him show up, like busting through the door, going with a Christmas wreath instead of like trying to attack ET. That would have been fun.
I will say Henry Thomas did like he put on like a really nice, sweet little performance.
He did.
Like the fact that it's this much time later and he's acting with the puppet. I think for a 4-minute commercial, it was a really nice little performance.
I felt bad for his wife who didn't get a line. What the crap?
Say a single
what
thing.
the crap? What the crap? It's 2019. Give her a few lines.
Shoved her aside. He was like,
really
my old friend.
Yeah. Oh. E.T. All right, let's see. Move on. Joy Me, I think. What did everybody think about the James Bond movie teaser trailer that came out yesterday? We've got a 15-second trailer, No Time to Die, that came out yesterday. Not much in it. The trailer drops on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. What did you all think?
I'm really excited. I think that this it looks different than the recent Bonds we've had. I really, really love Daniel Craig in the role, and I think that. As it looks like it finally is going to be his last time as James Bond, there is a level of excitement there where it's like you could really do a lot with that. Like if you embrace ending your time as Bond, which I'm not sure we've ever really seen.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I'm not the biggest James Bond fan in the world, but I do agree that this feels different because they've never been like making a thing of the person's last movie, and I love Cary Fukunaga. The fact that he's again his name is attached to it, so I'm excited. It felt different from the lead up to a lot of Bond movies throughout my life, and that was enough to get me excited because it's just like I'm not a big James Bond fan. James Bond is not enough to excite me. If you just like that poster that was just like him in a suit, I was like, cool, nice suit, but it's just like the fact that it didn't feel like the same thing I've seen 20 other times was enough for me to be like, all right, I will go see that.
Yeah, this one had a darker, weirder vibe to it, even over 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Just that last shot at the end of whatever's behind that glass, that weird glass. Mm-hmm. You're like, what is this? And you think about Fukunaga, you think about True Detective, you're like, oh, are you going to bring some of that elements into James Bond?
It had weird True Detective vibes. Right? It's just like that, the weirdness of that season was what made it the only good season. It's just like he's bringing his own vibe to James Bond, which I think is important. I think the filmmaker and I think Danny Boyle would have did the same thing.
Yeah.
In an alternate universe where he made this movie. I think it's important for the filmmaker to bring their own perspective to James Bond because we've seen James Bond in every situation possible. So we need to see, it's hard to do a new James Bond. Yeah. But this felt like a new James Bond.
I agree. I thoroughly agree. It gets me excited for it on Wednesday. Hopefully it'll drop before movie talk so we can talk about it, but we'll see. All right, let's see. Okay, Luke Nelson, what is your favorite animated sequel of all time? Mine would be The Rescuers Down Under. I would argue Toy Story 2 maybe, or even Shrek 2 in my opinion. I like both of those a lot myself. Or Incredibles 2. A lot of people like Incredibles 2.
Aladdin, Return of Jafar.
Oh boy!
And I want them to do it. I want the live action Return of Jafar. It will double.
I think
it will
King
double
of
the box
Thieves
office.
is much better than the trilogy.
I want the
Here we
trilogy.
go.
I want the live action trilogy. Do it, Disney. Put it on Disney Plus. I don't care. I'll watch it 5 times more times than The Irishman. Return of Jafar is cinema.
Okay, fair. You're standing for Jafar. Respect. Yeah.
Probably Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite Toy Story movie.
That's direct sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say 3 is my favorite sequel of all time, but 2 is the direct. I like 2 as the favorite direct sequel. Yeah.
I feel like 2 was at a point where it's like, this shouldn't have worked, and yet it was great.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's every Toy Story movie. Like every Toy Story sequel, I'm just like, another one, and then I'm just like openly weeping, and I'm just like 5 more Toy Story movies. Yeah.
What do you have a kid with Bo Peep? I think they could do that. All right, MK Songbird wants to know. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Quick thoughts review of The Report with Adam Driver and Annette Bening that released over the weekend. Did you guys see it on Amazon?
I haven't yet.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it. My review is that I have not seen it. I'll get back to you.
All right. I've seen it twice. It's absolutely fantastic. And if you want to hear some more behind the scenes stuff, go to the Deep Cut, the podcast I have on Collider on the Collider Conversations feed. I interviewed the director, Scott Z. Burns, at his house in Venice about making the movie. So it was really a fun conversation to have with that guy. Watch The Report. It's so good. And I think Annette should be nominated for Best Supporting Actress. I hope she does it for playing Diane Feinstein. Let's see here. Skyboss96, what are your expectations? Oh, we already talked about that. All right. Planet Sophia, what about international audience that don't have access to Disney Plus? What do you think about that? Are they missing out on this like, is Disney making a mistake not making it available internationally?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a shame that there's not some way for people to see Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I think that the reveal of Baby Yoda was so well done.
Yeah.
And it's sad that people didn't get to experience that in the way that people with Disney Plus did.
Right.
And I mean, I used to live in France when I was a kid, and it was when Star Trek The Next Generation was on. It was my favorite show. And I would have to wait for like a friend of my dad's to mail VHS tapes with like a bunch of episodes on them. So like, I understand the being cut off from the thing you love and not being able to be part of the conversation. And the sad fact of the matter is I think it also just encourages piracy.
Wow. Which is what your uncle did. No offense. That's statute of limitations. That's total piracy. It's a good thing statute of limitations is over. Yeah.
It was fascinating that first week after The Mandalorian dropped, you could like feel people wanting to tweet about Baby Yoda. It was just like, when can we talk about spoiler? And it was just like, and then after the floodgates were open, they were open. And I do think it's ridiculous to expect people to not talk about The Mandalorian for like when do they get Disney Plus? It would be
Right.
I don't know how you could possibly not keep that, how you could keep that a secret for that long. But it was interesting that people like for like a week they were like, yeah, we should keep this secret. And then when the floodgates opened, they were open. Now it's open season on Baby Yoda. But it is a shame, and I do think it's a weird rollout. And it's a weird. I mean, I understand they wanted to get it out, and I understand it, but like But I will say, there's not going to be another original Disney Plus show for a long time.
Yeah.
They debuted with The Mandalorian, and I think the next one is like middle of 2020.
Yeah, I always get upset that you can't have access to everything all the time internationally and domestically. It's always frustrating. Like Peaky Blinders came out 4 or 5 months before it came out on Netflix. So I found it. I happened to be in London, and I just I ripped through the episodes. I found a website that had them, and I just ripped through the episodes because the VPN could work while I was in London on my computer. But like if I was back in the States, I'd be super frustrated. I had to wait all those months. So all that stuff needs to stop. I think it needs to be wide open. Everything like the Gavin and Stacey Christmas special is coming up with James Corden. I probably won't have access to it because I'm not in Britain. I'll have to find a way to get access to it.
Yeah.
So you're not, how can I say this correctly? You're not necessarily forced to do piracy, but then again, as a consumer, you don't like being left out in the cold. So you want to find a way to watch this kind of stuff. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating piracy. I'm just saying, people are going to react how they're going to react. And be careful how you tweet about The Mandalorian. I discovered that yesterday. Yikes. All right, anyway.
You mean the best Western show of 2019? Right. The Mandalorian? My favorite Western show on TV right now?
I should have put not only, and I have been paying the price ever since all day yesterday. That was a rough one. So, well, you live and you learn.
You know, one interesting thing I learned, I was rewatching Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And, the Baby Yoda reveal is such a great reveal at the end of the first episode.
Yeah.
But I was watching it again and thinking, like, it's almost a shame this didn't happen to the second episode because we're told that his bounty is a 50-year-old individual,
which
feels like if you had given us a week of speculation, we would have arrived at every other Star Wars character except Yoda as a possibility.
I will say I do like having a week of speculation between episodes, though. I think The Mandalorian has really Mandalorian and Watchmen. They're two shows right now that have really seen the benefit of week to week releasing. Because if The Mandalorian had dropped day one, we would have been the economy on Baby Yoda memes would have died. It would have died immediately. But we're still, that show feels like it's been out and in the public consciousness for months now. It's really only been 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it's week to week and something kind of exciting happens every week and it gets you talking. It really shows the benefit of releasing your show week to week. Because
real quick, did you guys like the last episode?
Yes, but I thought it was the weakest episode.
I agree 100%. Trying to shove in a Seven Samurai storyline into a 30 minutes, that's a massive mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the fence with The Mandalorian the entire time.
Wow.
I just feel like I don't know. It feels almost like a 2-hour movie that they were like, let's make it an 8-episode show because every episode feels like it has a lot in it, but there's really not. There's only like a little bit happening. You know? Like it's big stuff, but really there's like a nugget of a story in every episode. So to me, The Mandalorian has been. I like it. It's cool. Okay. It's Star Wars-y. It's fun to see like an AT-ST walking through the woods. It's incredibly well made. Yeah. Like, everything looks gorgeous, and the cinematography and the performances. I like everything about it. Yeah. It's just the story itself. You can't rely on showing the baby the whole time.
Right.
And I'm not saying that Baby Yoda is bad. That's not what I'm saying. I love Baby Yoda. I would die for Baby Yoda. I would kill for Baby Yoda. But he is. You can't just show him and be like, "That's the episode."
See that's Twitter fear. That's Twitter fear right there.
Honestly, as soon as I said it, I was like, "Yeah, Baby Yoda's a little bad." That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. Baby Yoda's the best.
Vinnie.
He is my green son. I would protect him with my life. But yeah, that is my opinion on the man.
Yeah, I thought this episode was. I thought it was fun. I don't got to wrap up. I love the episode, but I thought this was a little bit. They tried to shove a little too much in. But the idea of the red eye on the AT-ST and the red eye on 3PO and the Rise of Skywalker has me thinking a lot of things.
The way they're like building out the lore of Star Wars.
Yes.
It's almost a story they're not telling, just with all the background stuff. Yeah. That stuff I love. The stuff that they're telling about the time period and who's where and every time they bring up the New Republic, people are like, oh, the New Republic. It's just, that to me is very interesting. That is my favorite part about The Mandalorian.
Sounds like a closed store, the New Republic. All right, anyway.
And we got to see a Loth Cat, which
we
was
did get to
so
see a Loth
cool.
Cat, yes. And Gina Carano was fantastic.
Yeah.
Come on now. Shout out to her. She was fantastic. Hopefully this is a step forward for her into other projects as well. Because she is, if she can lock in the acting combined with her obviously incredible physicality, we're good to go with her in the future being part of more and more franchises. That would be fun. All right, that's our live movie talk. Thank you all so much for joining us on this lovely Monday morning. Hope we entertained you. Hope we made you laugh. Please like and share this episode on your social media. Give us some love. And you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, subscribe now. You got that red button there. Thanks to Vinnie Mancuso.
Of course.
Have you got something coming up that you're writing?
I'm always writing. Just go to collider.com. Go to collider.com every day. Everyone there is brilliant. You'll love what you read. Go to collider.com.
Vinnie has some fun takes on stuff. It's always fun to read his stuff. What are you up to now, Silas?
Moviebill.com. I post a lot of trailers and stuff, but Moviebill is it's located in the Regal Cinemas app, and you can scan movie posters and they come to life and have surprises. And we have some really cool stuff in the works for next year.
Awesome. Yeah, go see that. They have a Frozen 2 one. That's really cool to look at as well. You can find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. Don't forget, Collider Live coming up in about 7 minutes. A lot of people, I think Michael Rosenbaum stopping by. Lex Luthor, I think he's going to be part of this thing. And of course, Heroes tomorrow. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m. PT. Again, I'll be here with 2 new guests for another episode of Live Collider Movie Talk. Thanks, Adam Smith. Thanks, Thad. Thanks, Dorian. Bye.